Blair Gilbert here for Gilbert's Pro Hardware in St. Clair Shores, Michigan and MrHardware.com. I'm going to show you one of my dad's tricks to making a piece of finished furniture, something that you've made and varnished or polyurethane yourself, go from good to perfect. So here we have a nice piece of black walnut that's got polyurethane on it. It's looking pretty good, except that it's not perfect. It's got a little bit multi-sheen. There's a little bit of dust in the finish. So when I feel it, it's not absolutely perfect. And we're going to use some paste wax and steel wool on a finished project that actually has been curing for 4 or 5 days. And it could be other things. It could be lacquer. It just has to be hard enough so that you won't scratch it. So the most important thing is you let your last coat of your finish cure out. As a prep to steel wool waxing, we're taking a little bit of mineral spirits, paint thinner. We're taking some 400 grit sandpaper, wet or dry sandpaper, 400 grit. I've wrapped it around the sponge to keep it flat, and I've been sanding this a couple times to take and even out the finish. There's fortunately 5 coats of finish on here, so this can afford some sanding without me burning through the finish. This spot here had an extra little pile of dust, probably came off my friend's arm when he was varnishing. The dust, you always have to make sure you put on clean clothes whenever you're putting on your last coats of finish, actually any coats of finish. In the old days, we could get a product called Steel Wool Wax by Star Bronze Company. Nowadays, we can't get it anymore, so now we're using Minwax Paste Wax. We are using 2-0 steel wool. And then we're going to buff this off with 4-0 steel wool. So here's what you do. You take the paste wax and you liberally apply it to the countertop. And what you're doing here is you're getting the wax on, and the steel wool, the wax is acting as a lubricant. So while we apply it, we're not scratching. The steel wool isn't scratching this countertop. The wax is acting as a lubricant, is allowing us to put this on, smooth out any imperfections, any little pieces of dust that may be in this countertop are being buffed off. And we're getting a nice coat of wax at the same time, but you will see that when we buff this off with 4-0 steel wool, now mind you, this job takes some elbow grease. We sell it by the pound at Gilbert's Hardware. So we do this all with the grain. We keep buffing with the grain until we start running out of wax. When you're finishing a piece of wood, as an amateur in a house or a small homeowner shop, you cannot make this a dust-free environment. You can only minimize the dust. And so what we're doing here is we are taking and we're getting rid of that dust that got into the last coat of finish. This has got a nice even layer of wax on it. And now I take 4-0 steel wool and I'm buffing off the excess wax. And now what will happen is when I'm done here, I'm going to take a nice piece of wood and I'm going to make it into a perfect, beautiful piece of wood. You had to have enough finish on it to pull this off. So you don't do this to bare wood or wood that only has some varnish in it. You have to do it to wood that's been totally sealed. We did this mostly on tabletops. Things that my friends come over and run their hands on. We put drinks and it's just to take and make something, not so much for door casings or doors. This is a hard job. You have to take and work this wax in and clean the finish. Then you have to take 4-0 steel wool and you have to buff it off. So this is not a real easy job. This takes some effort. But the nice thing is when I'm doing a tabletop or the top of a bookshelf or something that people are going to touch and experience. And the other thing that this has done is it's made the finish, the sheen, is a lot more even of a satin than when we started. Now we have an even finish, we have a polished surface. that's going to last years. It's going to take a half hour to an hour to do a large table, to do a beautiful job. The difference is that once you're done, it's worth it, because this finish is now pretty close to indestructible. With this tabletop here has gone from just a so-so finish to something that people are going to take, rub their hands on, and will admire. So you can see where we've gone from a nice satin finish to a polished, hand-waxed finish using steel wool of all things.